Celebrities who lost their freedom, they had money. They had fame. They had the world watching. But they didn't have freedom. We're taught to believe that fame is the ultimate escape. Escape from ordinary life. Escape from limits. Escape from control. But for some of the biggest celebrities in history, fame did the exact opposite. It locked them in. Behind the sold-out arenas, chart-topping albums, and screaming fans were contracts they couldn't break, people who controlled their lives, and systems designed to profit from them, not protect them. This isn't about scandals. This isn't about rumors. These are documented cases where fame took away freedom. In this documentary, we'll uncover the hidden stories of Britney Spears, legally controlled for over a decade, Michael Jackson, pushed into contracts before he could choose a Prince, who fought a label that owned his music's Taylor Swift, battling to reclaim her masters. Elvis Presley, trapped under a manager who ruled his career, Judy Garland, exploited by Hollywood studio system. Kesha, silenced by a legal battle with her producer JoJo, locked out of her own career by a record deal. Different eras. Different industries. Same outcome. Control replaced choice. At what point does success stop being success, and start becoming a prison? And if fame gives you everything, what happens when it takes away your freedom? We begin with one of the most public cases of control in modern celebrity history. A pop star whose every move was watched, yet who couldn't make basic decisions about her own life. This is the story of Britney Spears. This is Celebrity Unscreened, where we uncover what fame really costs. Britney Spears, conservatorship when fame became a court-ordered cage. Britney Spears wasn't just famous. She was one of the most recognizable people on earth. Her face was everywhere. Her music was inescapable. Her name alone could sell out stadiums. And yet, for 13 years, Britney Spears did not legally control her own life. Globe showing Europe, Africa, the image the world saw to the public, Britney was pop perfection. Chart-topping hits, iconic performances, a global superstardom before adulthood. She was the girl who defined an era. But behind the scenes, something very different was happening. Brain how it started in 2007, the world watched Britney unravel in real time. Paparazzi followed her everywhere. Every mistake became breaking news. Every private moment became public entertainment. After a very public mental health crisis, a judge approved something rarely used for someone so young and wealthy, a legal conservatorship. At first, it was framed as temporary, protective, necessary. But it didn't end. Balance scale what the conservatorship really meant. Under the conservatorship, Britney lost control over her finances. She couldn't sign contracts without permission. She couldn't make medical decisions, she couldn't marry freely, she couldn't decide when to stop working. Even her own body was regulated. This wasn't management. This was legal ownership of a human life. The most disturbing part, here's the part most people struggle to understand. Britney was deemed too unstable to control her, yet somehow stable enough to release albums, tour the world, perform in a Vegas residency, generate hundreds of millions of dollars. If she could work, why couldn't she choose? Performing arts, the silence for years, Britney barely spoke publicly about her situation. When she did, her words were filtered. Her interviews were monitored. Her image tightly controlled. Fans noticed something was wrong long before the courts did. She smiled, but it looked forced. She performed, but something felt empty. The world was watching a superstar function under restraint. Tornado, the Free Britney moment, then something unexpected happened. Fans began to listen. Social media posts. Court documents. Small comments Britney made online. A movement formed, #FreeBritney. What started as speculation slowly revealed something darker, a system that had gone unchecked for over a decade.
Kaboom!
The testimony that changed everything in 2021, Britney finally spoke directly to the court. Her words were calm, clear, devastating. She described being forced to work, forced to take medication, prevented from removing a birth control device, threatened with consequences if she refused. She didn't sound unstable. She sounded trapped. Puzzle piece why it lasted so long. The conservatorship continued because it made people money. It removed Britney's ability to challenge it. All the system favored control over autonomy. Fame didn't protect her. It made her more valuable controlled than free. Dove the end of the cage in late 2021, after immense public pressure, the conservatorship ended. Britney regained legal control of her life. But freedom doesn't erase trauma. She didn't just lose years of independence. She lost trust. Brain what fame took from Britney. Fame took her adulthood, her privacy, her voice, her bodily autonomy. She became proof of something terrifying. You can be famous, rich, and adored, and still have no freedom at all. Britney's freedom was taken by the courts. The next story is different. Because Michael Jackson never chose fame. He was born into it. And the contracts that followed him from childhood shaped the rest of his life. Britney Spears wasn't broken. She was controlled. And her story forces us to ask, if this can happen to one of the most famous women in the world, who is truly safe? This is Celebrity Unscreened. And this is what fame really takes. Michael Jackson, childhood plus contracts. Fame. He never chose. Michael Jackson didn't chase fame. Fame found him. Before he was old enough to understand it. Before he could choose. Before he could say no. Globe showing Europe, Africa. The image the world saw. To the world, Michael Jackson was magic. The voice. The dance moves, the records that changed music forever. He wasn't just famous. He was global. But what most people forget is this: Michael Jackson never had a normal childhood. A child. Born into performance, Michael joined the Jackson 5 at just 5 years old. By 11, he was already an international star. While other kids were learning who they were, Michael was learning choreography, studio schedules, and performance discipline. His life wasn't guided by curiosity. It was guided by contracts, expectations, and pressure. Brain. Fame before consent. Michael didn't sign up for superstardom. Adults signed for him. Record labels, a managers, a television network's decisions were made in rooms he wasn't allowed into. His talent became a business asset before it became his identity. Balance scale contracts that followed him as Michael grew older. The system didn't loosen its grip. Instead, it evolved. Long-term recording contracts of performance obligations, touring demands, image control. Even as the most famous entertainer alive, Michael was still operating inside legal frameworks created when he was a child. Success didn't cancel the contracts. It strengthened them. The price of never growing up. Michael later, what fame took from him: sleepovers, a privacy of friendships, a sense of normal development. He didn't get to discover himself slowly. His identity was shaped under cameras, criticism, and expectations. And when childhood is stolen, you don't get it back. Performing arts, the king of pop persona, Michael became larger than life. But that persona wasn't just branding. It was protection. A way to survive constant scrutiny, isolation, and pressure. Behind the perfection was a man who never learned how to exist without performance. Tornado control without escape. Even at the height of his power, media dictated narratives, contracts dictated output, public opinion dictated behavior. Michael was admired, but rarely understood. Fame kept him visible, but emotionally isolated. Puzzle piece, the strange paradox. Michael Jackson owned wealth or influence, cultural dominance, yet lacked something far more basic: freedom to grow privately. His life proves a haunting truth. You can be adored by millions and still feel completely alone. Dove what fame took from Michael. Fame took his childhood, his anonymity, his sense of safety, his ability to mature away from judgment. He didn't lose freedom in court. He lost it before he knew what freedom was. Britney Spears was controlled by law. Michael Jackson was controlled by timing. Because when fame arrives too early, there is no escape. The next story is about a man who fought back, who refused to let the industry own his art. This is Prince. Michael Jackson wasn't strange. He was unfinished. A child who became famous before he could become himself. This is Celebrity unscreened. And this is what fame really takes. Prince, label ownership battle when the artist didn't own himself. Prince was one of the most talented musicians who ever lived. He could play nearly every instrument. He wrote thousands of songs. He defined an era. And yet, for years, Prince did not own his own music. Globe showing Europe, Africa, the image the world saw to the public, Prince was freedom personified. Fearless, unpredictable, unapologetically himself, purple suits. Genre-defying sound. Complete artistic confidence. But behind the image of control was a man locked in a quiet war with the very industry that made him famous. Brain how the trap began. Prince signed with Warner Brothers Records in the late 1970s. At the time, it looked like a dream deal, creative freedom, a major distribution, massive promotion. But buried in the contract was a familiar industry reality: the label owned the masters. Not the artist. Not the creator. The company. Balance scale success made the chains tighter. As Prince's fame exploded, so did the tension. He was producing music faster than the label could market it. Warner Brothers wanted fewer releases. Prince wanted constant creation. The label controlled, when albums were released, how often he could release them, which songs reached the public. His creativity became something that needed permission. The moment it broke by the early 1990s, Prince felt suffocated. He wasn't fighting for money. He was fighting for autonomy. So he did something the industry had never seen. He changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol. Performing arts slave, a public protest. Prince began appearing in public with the word slave written on his face. Not for shock. For clarity. It was his way of saying, I am famous, but I am not free. The public was confused. The industry was furious. But Prince was making a point no artist had dared to make so openly. Tornado, the personal cost of resistance, the fight took a toll. Radio support dropped, media coverage turned dismissive, industry relationships collapsed. Prince was punished for refusing to play along. He was labeled difficult, unstable, uncooperative. A familiar pattern when artists demand control. Puzzle piece, the vault and silence. Prince continued to create, obsessively. Thousands of unreleased songs were locked away in his vault. Not because he didn't want the world to hear them, but because he refused to give them away. If he couldn't own his work, he wouldn't surrender it. Dove reclaiming his name, but not his years. Eventually, Prince regained control of his masters and his name. But freedom came late. Years of creativity had been restricted. Momentum lost. Battles fought in isolation. Ownership was won, but at enormous cost. Brain what fame took from Prince. Fame took control over his art, a trust in the industry, years of unrestricted creativity, a peace. Prince didn't lose freedom because he failed. He lost it because he succeeded inside a system designed to own him. Britney Spears was controlled by the courts. Michael Jackson was bound by childhood contracts. Prince was owned by a label. The next story is quieter, but just as powerful. Because sometimes, freedom is lost not through force, but through perfection. This is Beyoncé. Prince proved something unforgettable: you can be a genius. You can be famous. And still have to fight to own yourself. This is Celebrity Unscreened. And this is what fame really takes. Taylor Swift, masters and control the battle to own her voice. Taylor Swift wrote her songs to tell her story. But for most of her career, she didn't own them. Globe showing Europe, Africa, the image the world saw. Taylor Swift is often seen as America's songwriter, a global pop powerhouse, a self-made success story. From country roots to stadium tours, she built one of the biggest careers in music. But behind the success was a fight few fans truly understood. A fight over ownership. Brain how the deal was made. As a teenager, Taylor signed her first record deal. Like most young artists, she had little leverage. The industry standard applied: the label owns the masters. At the time, it felt like the price of entry. Fame came fast. Hits followed. And the contracts stayed. Balance scale when control changed hands. Years later, Taylor learned her master recordings had been sold. Not to her. To someone else. Her life's work, the songs she wrote, the voice that carried her story, was now controlled by parties she didn't choose. The decision was legal. But deeply personal. Why this? Taylor wasn't fighting for money. She was fighting for agency. Her songs weren't just products. They were journals. Memories. Personal history. And suddenly, access to them wasn't hers. Performing arts public silence, then speaking up. For years, the industry expected silence. Artists weren't supposed to challenge ownership structures. But Taylor did something unexpected. She spoke publicly. Calm. Direct. Clear. She reframed the conversation. This wasn't drama. It was control. Tornado the re-recording strategy. Then came the move no one anticipated. Taylor decided to re-record her albums. Not as nostalgia. As resistance. By recreating her work, she reclaimed power. Ownership shifted, not through lawsuits, but through strategy. Taylor's decision to re-record her albums wasn't symbolic. It was surgical. Each new release quietly rewrote the power structure of the industry. Fans chose the new versions as licensing shifted toward her control, the originals lost cultural dominance. Without yelling. Without chaos. She proved something revolutionary: you don't always need permission to reclaim what was taken, sometimes you need patience and leverage. Brain, why this mattered beyond Taylor. Taylor's fight wasn't just personal. It exposed a system millions of listeners had never questioned. Young artists were signing away lifetime ownership before they fully understood what ownership meant. Her story became a blueprint. Not just for pop stars, but for creators everywhere. The hidden cost, but reclaiming control, came with sacrifice. Years of legal tension, a public scrutiny framed as a drama, being labeled difficult for asserting boundaries. The industry didn't applaud her courage. It watched carefully. Because if artists realized they had options, the system would change. Performing arts control versus perception. Taylor was criticized for speaking up. Too emotional. Too calculated. Too ambitious. But those labels revealed something uncomfortable. When women demand control, they're rarely called powerful, they're called problematic. Her fight wasn't about revenge. It was about agency. Puzzle piece: what fame took from Taylor. Fame took ownership of her earliest work, of the right to decide how her story was used, a trust in the industry that benefited from her youth. She didn't lose freedom quietly. She had to fight to reclaim it in public. Of the aftermath today, Taylor Swift stands as one of the few artists who successfully challenged the system and won. But victory doesn't erase the truth. Her battle shouldn't have been necessary. The fact that it was says everything about how fame treats creators. Britney Spears was controlled by law. Michael Jackson by childhood contracts. Prince by label ownership. Taylor Swift by masters she didn't own. The next story predates all of them. A time when fame came with total surrender. This is Elvis Presley, and the manager who controlled everything. Taylor Swift didn't ask to change the industry. She just refused to stay silent inside it. This is celebrity unscreened. And this is what fame really takes. Elvis Presley, Colonel Parker, the manager who owned the king. Elvis Presley was the most famous man on earth. The voice. The hips. The crowds that screamed his name. But behind the throne was a secret few fans knew. Elvis did not control his own career. Globe showing Europe, Africa. The image the world saw to the public: Elvis was freedom. Rock and roll rebellion. Youthful defiance. Pure American stardom. But offstage, Elvis lived a life dictated by one man. His manager. Colonel Tom Parker. Brain. How the control began. Colonel Parker wasn't a traditional manager. He didn't guide Elvis. He owned access to him. Parker negotiated deals, approved appearances, and controlled finances. Elvis trusted him completely. That trust became leverage. Balance scale. A career run by fear. What most fans don't realize: Colonel Parker was undocumented. He feared leaving the United States. So when Elvis became a global star, Parker refused international tours. Not for Elvis's safety. For his own. Elvis never toured overseas, not because he didn't want to, but because his manager couldn't follow him. The money trap. Parker took an unusually large percentage of Elvis's earnings. In return, he pushed constant output, back-to-back movies, a relentless touring, and merchandise deals. Elvis became a product, worked to exhaustion. Rest wasn't profitable. Performing arts. Hollywood as a cage instead of artistic growth, Parker steered Elvis into formulaic films. Not because they were good. Because they were safe. Each movie dulled Elvis's creative edge, but kept cash flowing. Elvis felt trapped. Yet breaking free felt impossible. Tornado. Isolation at the top. The more famous Elvis became, the smaller his world grew. Surrounded by yes men. Disconnected from real feedback. Dependent on Parker's control. Freedom faded behind velvet curtains. Puzzle piece. Why Elvis never escaped. Elvis didn't lack power. He lacked knowledge. Parker controlled information. Contracts. Negotiations. By the time Elvis realized how trapped he was, the system was too entrenched. Dove. The cost of control. By the end of his life, Elvis was physically exhausted, emotionally isolated, and financially vulnerable. The man adored by millions had very little say over his own destiny. Brain. What fame took from Elvis. Fame took creative freedom, international opportunity, financial independence, personal autonomy. Elvis wasn't weak. He was managed into submission. Britney Spears was controlled by courts. Michael Jackson by childhood contracts. Prince by ownership battles. Taylor Swift by masters. Elvis Presley by a manager. The next story is older and darker. A young girl shaped, medicated, and exploited by Hollywood itself. This is Judy Garland. Elvis didn't die a king. He died a man who never truly ruled his own life. This is Celebrity Unscreened. And this is what fame really takes. Judy Garland, Hollywood studio system. When fame owned the child, Judy Garland made the world believe in magic. But behind the smile, behind the songs, behind the rainbow, was a child who was never free. Globe showing Europe, Africa. The image the world saw to audiences, Judy Garland was joy. A once-in-a-generation voice, a bright-eyed girl with endless charm. The face of Hollywood hope. She became a star before she became a teenager. But in old Hollywood, fame didn't protect children. It consumed them. Child. A child signed into control. Judy Garland was signed by MGM Studios as a young girl. At the time, studios didn't just manage careers. They owned people. Contracts dictated what you ate, when you slept, to how much you weighed. What roles you played, when you worked, and when you didn't. Judy's childhood ended the moment the contract began. Balanced scale. Perfection at any cost. MGM executives believed Judy wasn't Hollywood perfect. Not thin enough. Not glamorous enough. So they controlled her body. She was put on strict diets. Prescribed pills to stay awake. Prescribed pills to sleep. This wasn't medicine. It was compliance. A life medicated for performance. As a teenager, Judy was routinely given amphetamines to keep filming, long hours of barbiturates to force sleep afterward. Her energy wasn't natural. It was chemically maintained. And no one asked if she was okay. The role that made her immortal, the Wizard of Oz, made Judy Garland a legend. But filming it nearly broke her. Long days. Emotional pressure. Physical exhaustion. She was praised for her performance, while being quietly destroyed behind the scenes. Performing arts. Control through fear. Judy lived in constant anxiety. She knew her worth, but also knew her disposability. The studio could drop her at any time. Fear kept her obedient. Silence kept her employed. Tornado. When the system let go eventually, MGM released Judy from her contract. Not because she was free, but because she was no longer manageable. She left the studio with no childhood deep dependency issues, emotional trauma, a public image that didn't match her reality. Fame had taken everything and then walked away. Puzzle piece. A career built on survival. Judy continued to perform. Not because she was healed. Because performance was all she knew. Applause became oxygen. Stages became refuge. But the damage was already done. Dove. What fame took from Judy? Fame took her childhood, her health, her autonomy, her safety. She wasn't reckless. She was conditioned. Britney Spears was controlled by courts. Michael Jackson by childhood contracts. Prince by ownership battles. Taylor Swift by masters. Elvis by management. Judy Garland by the studio system. Different eras. Same pattern. Fame didn't just elevate them. It owned them. Judy Garland didn't fall apart because she was weak. She fell apart because fame never let her grow up. This is Celebrity Unscreened. And this is what fame really takes. What fame took from these celebrities. They weren't reckless. They weren't ungrateful. They weren't weak. They were valuable. And that's why control followed them. Performing arts connecting the stories. Britney Spears lost her freedom to a courtroom. Michael Jackson lost his childhood to contracts he never chose. Prince fought an industry that owned his creativity. Taylor Swift had to rebuild her career to reclaim her voice. Elvis Presley trusted a manager who never let go. Judy Garland was shaped, medicated, and discarded by a studio system. Different lives. Different decades. Same pattern. Brain the system behind the fame. Fame didn't just spotlight them. It monetized them. And once profit enters the room, freedom quietly leaves. Contracts replace consent. Management replaces autonomy. Image replaces humanity. Dove the myth we believe. We're taught that fame is the ultimate reward. That success equals control. That money equals freedom. But these stories reveal the truth we rarely confront. The more famous you become, the more people feel entitled to decide for you. Tornado. The real cost. What fame took from them wasn't just privacy. It took choice, at times safety, identity. Things no amount of applause can replace. Magnifying glass tilted left the question that lingers, so the next time we admire success, or envy fame, or wish we were in their place, we should ask a harder question: what did it cost them to get there? And more importantly, who was in control when they couldn't be? This isn't a warning against success. It's a reminder that power without protection becomes exploitation. And that even the most celebrated lives can hide the deepest cages. If these stories changed how you see fame, leave a comment. Which story stayed with you the most? And if you want more documentaries that uncover the strange, hidden truths behind celebrity life, subscribe to Celebrity Unscreened. Because fame doesn't just give. Sometimes, it takes everything.